I worked in Bosque Mágico only for the summer of 2012. Those who remember the park at the time would recall that the Mansion of Terror was very different from the current one, since in those times there were no machines or effects with screens or things like that. At the time, we were scaring people with costumes, banging walls, screaming around. My first day was actually right at the mansion, if I remember correctly. When I arrived, I remember that I was introduced to the people I was working with. 5 in total. Not including me, of course. Also, that day there seemed to be more people, since per ride there'd be only 2 or 3. But still, I got there and they showed me the whole mansion. Back then, the tour started on the second floor, and there were 8 stages there. From there you went on to the first floor, where there were another 4 stages. Among them, the one that had most activity was the nursery, where we scared people with clown get-ups. They told me that I should avoid walking around the mansion alone, and not because they were gonna do something to me, but that people without faces or creepy ghost children would appear. I didn't really care, because I thought that they were playing a joke on me. I remember a lot of stories I could tell. However, one of these stories, the one that to this day has impacted me the most, was a time I had to stay for over 2 hours, scaring people throughout the mansion. This mainly because there was a lack of staff, and some were...
My task were to allow people to pass, give them the rules, scare them a little bit, and then continue to scare on the route. During the routes, I was changing costumes about every 2 or 3 scenarios. On the second story, I'd wear a Dracula cape, a Chucky mask, and on the first one I suited in a very Pigla clown mask. There weren't many people because it was a cloudy day. The atmosphere was feeling very off. It was 6 o'clock in the afternoon, and there was a little bit of time left in my shift. I'd repeat the route every so often. However, one of these times, 10 people entered for the route. I gave them the rules and began to scare them as per usual. Everything was fine, nothing out of the ordinary. And when we got down to the clown stage, I put the mask on, scared them and chased them, hitting the ground with some metal bars. They ran away and I came back to start over. I placed the mask on a bench there on the ground floor, and I started with another tour. And when I headed down the road again towards some stairs to go down to the ground floor, I tripped over something and I picked it up and it was the clown mask. And I said to myself, what an idiot, you brought it in your hand. And I went down with it and I finished the journey frightening with that mask. And I put it back on the bench and I started a new route. And at the top, right where I found the mask, I'd sit it again, and once again, I tried to deceive myself by saying, you brought it with you. I went down once more and I finished scaring some customers. And again, I placed it on the bench, but now, when I placed it, I said directly to the mask, I'm putting you here, and you're going to stay here. You're not going to move, okay? Got it?
I started with the following route. At the top, when I was walking towards the stairs, I was coming from a long corridor, about 6 or 8 meters long. I was looking on the ground to find the mask, but it wasn't there. When I didn't say it, I was relieved, but when I raised my head to continue the route, I felt chills running through my body and I couldn't hear anything. And then there it was. Right in the stair railing, the mask was there on the stairs. Just looking down the hall where I came from, I froze. I felt as if those ghosts and little kids were taking me by my feet and hit. I heard aloud, and after that, and I was thrown. I ran to the front where my friend was collecting tickets, and I asked him, "Hey, do you know what time Seth isn't there?" And he replied that neither Seth nor anyone else had entered. And I guess he noticed my pale face and didn't even crack a smirk. He asked me if everything was okay, to which I answered yes. At that moment, 3 of my other friends arrived. They were coming from the front of the park, still wearing their mascot suit. It was impossible for them to have been in the house. I felt chills all over my body when I told him. They all got excited and we started looking from the clown mask, which I hadn't touched since I last saw it on the railing, and to everyone's surprise, and we couldn't find it. Not that day, not the week after, we never called.